It's honestly one of the most incredible stories in modern business. This is the story of how an adopted kid, literally from the passenger seat of a beat-up Chevy Blazer, typed out a business plan that would one day become a $2 trillion empire. This is the improbable, relentless story of Amazon. So where does a story like that even begin? Well, it starts with a single number, this one. In 1994, Jeff Bezos was a senior VP at a Wall Street hedge fund, and he stumbled on this statistic. The internet was growing at an annual rate of 2,300%. And for Bezos, this wasn't just some number on a page. No, this was a siren song, pulling him away from a super lucrative Wall Street career and towards something he couldn't even imagine yet. So you gotta picture this. At the time, Bezos was working at a firm called D.E. Shaw, which was known for hiring, as one source put it, brilliantly weird people. He was already a massive success, right? But that 2,300% number, it just got stuck in his head. He became obsessed. He created this spreadsheet listing 20 different businesses you could start online. But one idea just kept jumping out at him, selling books. And the speed at which he moved was just astonishing. Within a single year of seeing that number, he and his wife Mackenzie were gone. They both quit their jobs and started driving from New York all the way to Seattle. And get this, as she drove, he's in the passenger seat banging out the business plan that would become Amazon. By the very next year, the website was live, running out of his garage. Now, you have to understand just how crazy this whole thing seemed to everyone else. When Bezos told his boss, David Shaw, he was leaving to sell books on the internet, this is what his boss said to him. I mean, that just says it all, right? He was walking away from a guaranteed, incredibly successful career for an idea that almost everyone, including his own brilliant boss, thought was completely insane. And the company we all know as Amazon? Well, it almost had a way different name. His first choice was Cadabra, like abracadabra. The problem was his lawyer kept mishearing it as cadaver, which isn't exactly great for branding. So his next idea was relentless. He loved it so much he actually bought the domain name, and you can try this today. If you type relentless.com into your browser, it still redirects you to Amazon. Finally, he landed on Amazon. It was perfect. It started with an A, so it would be at the top of alphabetized lists, and it was named after the world's biggest river, which was a little hint at his massive ambition. And the beginnings were just so incredibly humble. He started the whole company with just $10,000, money his parents nervously took from their retirement fund. Can you imagine that conversation? His office setup became legendary, desks made from cheap doors that he bolted onto 2x4s, and this wasn't just for show. It was a symbol of the company's core philosophy from day one, absolute frugality. But here's the thing. Amazon was never just a startup. From day one, Bezos operated with a simple but ruthless philosophy. Get big fast. This wasn't about building a cute little bookstore. This was about launching a 30-year siege on the entire retail industry. This famous Bezos mantra became the company's guiding principle. And it wasn't just some clever slogan. It was a direct threat to every other retailer out there. It meant that any profit another company was making was a space where Amazon could come in, undercut them on price, and just completely dominate. And by the late 90s, the strategy was working. Wall Street fell in love. Amazon became the poster child of the dot-com bubble, and its stock price just soared to over $100 a share, even though, and this is key, the company still wasn't profitable. And then, the bubble burst. In March of 2000, the market just imploded, and Amazon stock crashed all the way down to just $6 a share. The headlines were screaming Amazon bomb, and analysts were openly predicting the company would go bankrupt within months. But the crash didn't break Amazon. Instead of panicking, Bezos went, as one source described it, cold and surgical. He slashed costs, streamlined operations, and got obsessed with efficiency. This near-death experience totally transformed the company. It survived while its peers just vanished, and it emerged leaner, tougher, and way more dangerous. In 2005, Amazon launched its kill shot, Prime. Now, to customers, it just seemed like an incredible deal for unlimited 2-day shipping. But Bezos knew it was actually a psychological trap. By paying that annual fee, customers fall into what's called the sunk cost fallacy. They feel like they have to get their money's worth, so they stop comparing prices elsewhere, and they get locked into the Amazon ecosystem. Loyalty wasn't just earned, it was engineered. But while everyone was focused on the retail side of things, Amazon's biggest revolution was happening almost by accident, completely behind the scenes.
An internal solution to their own explosive growth was about to become one of the most powerful and profitable companies on Earth.
So here's what happened. Amazon's own tech teams were struggling to keep up with the company's insane growth. So they built a new set of tools for themselves. Flexible, modular, scalable cloud computing power. They called it Amazon Web Services, or AWS. And in 2006, they just quietly started offering it to the public. The result was absolutely staggering. Soon AWS was powering huge chunks of the internet, from Netflix and NASA to the CIA, and, get this, even parts of its own retail competitors. Bezos hadn't just built the everything store, he had built the backbone of the digital world itself. This is also when the strategy started to get a lot more controversial. Third-party sellers on Amazon's marketplace noticed a really disturbing pattern. If their product sold well, a nearly identical but cheaper Amazon-branded version would suddenly appear. The company was accused of using private seller data to clone and crush the very businesses that made its platform so successful, basically devouring its own ecosystem. As Amazon hardened into this global empire, its founder was going through a similar dramatic transformation. He was evolving from a quirky tech founder into a global titan, with ambitions that stretched far, far beyond online retail. Yeah, gone was the nerdy guy packing books in a garage. The new Bezos was physically transformed, carrying himself with a totally different presence. He looked less like a startup founder and more like, as one source memorably put it, the final boss of capitalism. The final years of his time as CEO were marked by these massive moves. The stunning acquisition of Whole Foods, getting hauled before Congress to defend Amazon's immense power, and then in 2021, a quiet announcement that he was stepping down as CEO. He was ready for his next project. And this reveals the crucial insight into his entire journey. For Bezos, Earth was never the endgame. The $2 trillion empire he built wasn't the ultimate goal. It was simply the launchpad. It was the financial engine he needed to fund his original childhood dream, space exploration. He has already reshaped global commerce, publishing, and the very architecture of the internet. Now with Blue Origin, he wants to move heavy industry off-planet entirely. The man who built the everything store is now trying to build a new world. The only question is, what is it going to look like?